What's happening, everyone? Welcome back to the workshop. I hope you're all doing well. Now in this video I just make a simple set of push blocks, an essential bit of safety kit for your workshop, especially working with your planer or your jointer, your table saw and your router table. These are essential to go along with your push sticks. Now you can make these out of plywood, you could have them together in about 15 or 20 minutes, you could buy yourself a set, or you can make a hardwood set like I did and spend most of the day doing it. I leave that up to you guys. So that's what we're going to be doing. I'm going to make oak and maple offcuts that I have in my workshop. I'm going to turn them into a set of push blocks. I put some leather on the end of them just to make them a little bit fancier. I'll have these forevermore as they're made of hardwood. So that's it, guys. Now it's not without its mistakes in this project. I did manage to break both handles halfway through the project. I had to repair them. So yeah, it wouldn't be a project if we weren't making mistakes. So that's it. Let's crack on, make ourselves a set of push blocks. Oh, and if you're not sure what push blocks are for, I'll give you a demonstration at the end of this video. So let's get on and do it. Okay, let's crack on. Now I want to make this out of scrap wood, anything I can get my hands on. We're not exactly reinventing the wheel here. These are only little push blocks at the end of the day. So hardwood handles I think I'm going to go for. I have a piece of roughly 2-inch oak here. I think we'll make 2 handles. Should get out of that. Plywood, birch ply for the base I think would be good. I don't think I have any hardwood. Maybe I do. There's a bit of maple. So yeah, maybe we might make these out of hardwood after all. I was going to make the bases out of birch ply. You can make these entirely out of plywood. Nice, quick and simple. But yeah, I think we'll do them completely out of hardwood. We'll make them a little bit fancier. Let's do that. There's 2 pieces of maple offcuts. A bit of oak for the handles. Let's crack on. Alright, let's take a look at what we have here. So I have 2 offcuts of maple we can use for the bases, or the paddles I suppose you would call them. We'll attach 2 handles to this, 2 oak handles, and we'll put some grippy material on the bottom. Now, the fact that we're making this out of hardwood, I have some leather here in the shop, so I might attach a little bit of leather to these for gripping the end of it. Now you can get grip mats, so you can use rubber mats, or you can use offcuts of anything, any kind of grippy material you can stick to the end of this. But I think the fact that we're using hardwood, I might stick some leather on the end of these and make a couple of fancy push blocks. Why not? It's nice to use nice tools, and nice tools encourage nice work, in my opinion. Now I want to have the bases 100mm by 200mm, so that's 4 inches by 8 inches. I think that's going to be plenty, and I think these pieces are already at 100mm. So I had these offcuts off another project, and they're 100mm in length or in width. So we just want to mark these at 200mm or 8 inches. There we go. That'll be one base. The same on this side. Bit of a chunk taken out of that, so we'll start from this side. I'll have to square off that end. So again, I'll just be marking this at 200 and square that off. Cut the 2 of those on the miter saw, and that's our bases almost done. Now let's mark out our handles. Okay, so this is an oak block that I have. We're going to make our handles out of this. Now, I'm going to stick to the dimensions of this block. It's just a block that I have to have, and it happens to be 157mm. So what's that? That's 4 inches, 5 inches, 6 inches, 6¼ inches roughly in width for my American friends. So yeah, that's the size of the block I have. So we got to get 2 handles out of this now. So I think I'm going to get about 30mm either side of my hand. So the sides can be 30mm, and I'm going to let the thickness of the handle be 40mm. So a nice kind of chunky handle. And the full length of the handles, I think 100mm or 4 inches should be plenty. So if I want to get 2 handles out of this, so if I mark that at 200mm, square that across, that will get me my 2 handles. So mark that just like that. Then I want to come in 30mm either side for the width of my handles. So mark that there and there, just like that. Square that down then, either side. Voila. Now I want to be 40mm for the thickness at the top of the handle. So come in 40mm from either side. Just like that. Square that across. Square that across. Now, I want to radius this corner and I want to put a radius in here inside in the handle as well. And then we're going to hit this with a round over bit. So if I mark this corner to corner, I'll be able to get the centers of my radius. This will all make perfect sense now in a second. So mark that corner to corner. Just like that. So that's where we're at so far. Now I need to mark this at 100 mil to get the center of my two handles, which is right there. That should put me right in the center of this, which it is. Perfect. So I know everything is lining up. I'm going to square that down just down the sides because I'm going to be putting a 15-degree angle in the end of these handles. And I'll explain why in a minute. But I'm just going to square that down both sides. So that's the center of my handles. Happy days. Okay, now I'm going to get something to get a nice radius on this and then we'll jump back in. But that's what we have so far. Okay, so for the radius, I'm going to use a 30mm Forstner bit. Now, just in case you don't understand what's going on here, this is my two handles end to end. So this is one handle this way, and this is the other handle this way. So we need to round in here and here, and we need to round out the outside edges as well. So I have a 30mm Forstner bit. So all I have to do to get this radius is put the center of my Forstner bit on this angle here. So I just need to measure out 15mm, and when 15mm hits this line, I just need to mark it, and that will give me a perfect radius that will hit this edge here and this edge here. So if I just measure out 15 mil, which is right there, just see exactly where that hits my line on the diagonal, which is right there. And if I put my Forstner bit in there where that mark is, I can see it's just clipping the edge here and it's just clipping the edge there. So that's perfect. So I can square that across. Just put a mark here, a mark here. Do the same on this side. Just measure in 15 mil, wherever 15mm hits that diagonal line, again, which is right there. Put the center of my Forstner bit on it. Just look straight down, eyeball it, just make sure it's clipping that edge and that edge. And it is roughly about there, so that's good. So square that point across to the other side. And there's my marks now for where I need to drill my Forstner bit. So happy days. Now, I have a 30mm washer, or it's roughly 30mm, and I'm just going to use that on to mark the edge here. So instead to hit both edges, just to radius over the end of the handles. So again, there and there, just take that off. Again, we don't have to be too exact here. Right there. Okay, so we'll have 30mm in here, 30mm out there. That's the outside of our handle, the inside of our handle. Nice and simple. So that's the radius done. Now let's tackle the angle. Okay, so the last thing we have to mark is the angle for our cut. Now this is the dead center point of our two handles. I'm not going to chop it straight at 90 degrees because I don't want my handles sitting straight up. So if you think about it, when you're using your push blocks, you don't want your hands or your wrists to be bent like this. You're always going to be standing back away from either the router table or your jointer. So you want your handles at a nice angle so your wrists are nice and relaxed. Again, you don't want to be up like this. That's kind of natural position for your hands. So about a 15-degree angle is a nice comfortable position for these push blocks. So I just went to my miter saw, set my blade to 15 degrees, put my sliding bevel up against it. So that's now set to 15 degrees. There is the center line of my two handles. I've marked the center of that. So I just got to make sure that my sliding bevel hits that point right there. Mark that there and there. So when I split my two handles now, the bases of my handles will have a 15-degree cut in them. So I can see where I need to put my miter saw now. That's the cut or the chop I'm going to make on my miter saw. And again, it'll put a 15-degree cut into the feet of both of these handles. It'll all make sense now in a minute if it's not. So let's get on and start cutting these out. First thing I'm going to do is just chop off the waist here. So that's the waist part. I don't need that. Okay, now that all our pieces are cut to size, next thing I want to do is drill out all 4 holes with our 30mm Forstner bit. Okay, 4 holes drilled. Now before we separate these two handles, I want to just knock off the corners, shape them, and then hit it with a round over bit. So let's do that. Okay, so now I'm just going to work these corners diagonally across the grain because I'm essentially going into end grain here. Really nice sharp spoke shave just to take the bandsaw blade marks out and just taking care not to blow out any of the edges. So again, this doesn't have to be exact. Just do it to eye, just match your radius. Bit of a handmade feel, that's perfectly alright. And it's kind of hard to spot discrepancies in curves anyway, so I'm not dealing with straight edges here. There you go, nice finish on that. Let's get on to the rest of them. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is just hit all around this with a round over bit on both sides before I split the handles in half. Just that it's nice and easy. It's a big piece and I can work it around this bit without getting my hands too close to the blade. That's all. Now, it might turn out that these hands are a little bit on the chunky side, so we might have to size them down after I'm finished shaping, but we'll have a look at that. We'll get the round over edge on them, we'll split these in half, we'll cut out the inside, and then we'll see where we're going to take it from there. Let's do it. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is split my handles in half. Remember, I'm cutting a 15-degree angle into the bottom of the handle, so it'll sit slightly off on the paddles. So I've just marked our squared line across where that 15-degree line comes up, so I can see exactly where to set up my chop saw or my miter saw, and it's set to 15 degrees. So nice and simple, let's just put a cut in it. Okay, so we've had a little bit of a catastrophe. I kind of guessed this was going to happen. After I chopped this piece on the miter saw, I noticed there was a big check in the middle of the wood. So right here, there was a split, and as soon as I took out the center piece, it just fell apart. So I'm going to have to glue this back together now. Just clamp it up, glue it, stick a clamp on this, and let it glue up. And we'll get back to that one later. So this is roughly where we're at. So I have the base here, I have the handle, and you can see it's set back at that 15-degree angle. So it's just nicer to use. Now, the handle is too thick and it's too high. I'm not happy with the dimensions of it, so we need to dimension this guy down. So I'm going to take it to the bandsaw. I'm going to take about 10 millimeters off the thickness of this. I might take something off the height. I'll make that decision in a little while, but first things I want to do is thickness this down, start shaping this handle, and then I'm going to see if I want to lower the height or not. It's nice to have your hands up and away from any spinning blades. So even though proportionally the handle might look a bit high, again, it's keeping your hands up away from any of the blades. And that's the idea of these things. So I might leave the length in it. We'll see how it's going to go. But first off, it's too thick this way, so it's going to take about 10 millimeters off it. Let's do that. Oh, glue this one up first. Okay, so I just went to the bandsaw, took 10 millimeters off the width of this handle, so it's a lot nicer in hand. Now, it's still a little bit on the chunky side, so I've got a good bit of shaping to do yet. Now, you don't have to go to all this trouble to make one of these. Like I said, you could just make it out of plywood, but I want to give it a kind of a handmade feel. So I'm going to use some rasps now and the spoke shaves, and I'm going to shape this handle till it feels nice and good and comfortable to use in hand. So, with the round over that I put in with the router, I'm just going to use that as a guide, as a starting point, and I'm going to enlarge that round over with the spoke shave, following it all around, try and keep it even, make a nice round handle, make a nice kind of palm swell in here, just so I can grip and it feels nice in hand. And we have the tools to do it, so why not? Let's crack on. So a little bit of work with the rasp, Japanese saw rasp, and the round rasp, and we should get a nice shape into this. Okay guys, one handle is all ready to go, so it's nicely shaped, feels really good in hand, has a kind of handmade feel to it, so I'm pretty happy with that. Now, the other one is giving me some problems. The glue is not setting up, and I was trying to shape it and it came back apart again. So I want to get on and get this made now, so what I'm actually going to do is put a screw in this. So I'm going to drill a big countersunk hole here, drive a screw straight through this, re-glue it, then get on and shape it. We're going to make a dowel and I'm going to plug that. So let's get on and do that now. Let's repair this handle and then we can get shaping it. Okay, so I've drilled a countersunk hole nice and deep into the side of the handle. I'm just going to drive a screw and then straight down through this whole thing to hold it together so I can get on and make it. Now I want to make a couple of dowels to go in this. So I have a piece of the offcut here on the vise I took out of this handle. So we have a dowel cutter here. That'll do the finest. Now I'm just going to cut these out on the bandsaw. Okay, let's put our screw down through this. Lock that up good and tight. And we can plug our hole with the dowel. Okay, voila, I'll let that set up for a little bit, cut that off and we'll get back to shaping this handle. Okay, both handles are now finished and I only went and dropped the good handle on the floor, broke that in half as well and had to put a screw on the side of that. But it is what it is. I'm starting to wish I just made these out of plywood now and not hardwood. But we are where we are, as they say. Now I've lots of sharp grain running in this direction. That's why they're kind of brittle this way. But it's better having it there than in the actual, I suppose, the leg part of the handle, because that's where the force is going to be when you're pushing. You don't want these to snap off. So it's better to have the grain running in this direction. But there we are. It is what it is. Now I'm just drilling the bases for some pilot holes for the screws. I'm matching that 15-degree angle with the pilot hole, just so the screw can come up and into the middle of our handle. So all I've done, I've just kept my sliding bevel at that angle. I'm just holding it here just behind the drill bit and I'm just literally eyeballing it. So just match the drill bit to the angle, just use the sliding bevel as a rough guide in the background and just drilling that through. Nice and simple. Both of those are already drilled. So there we go. That's a 15-degree angle. Now I'm drilling from the top down rather from the bottom up because I want to make sure I'm in the center, because it's not going to be center when it comes out the bottom because of the angle. So that's all. Now, little countersunk hole there and there, and we can screw these in place. Lovely. Okay guys, we are nearly there. I've just hit both of them with a little coat of oil, just a quick rub, just to help protect them a small bit. They don't need too much protection. Now I'm going to stick some leather to the bottom of these. Now you can stick anything you want to these, some sort of rubber mat. You can buy the rolls of non-slip grippy stuff that you can stick right on this. Whatever you want to use is fine. I'm making these from hardwood. I have a little bit of workshop leather here, so I'm going to use that. And I'm going to keep the kind of rougher side down because it's a little bit more grippy. So yeah, this should be nice. And there'll be two nice little tools when it's all said and done. Now, I'm just going to use some spray adhesive to put this on. So this stuff is pretty simple to use. I have the leather just on top of a piece of plywood here so that it's nice and flat and stretched out. And we'll just get some of this on. So it's only a case of spray this on. Cover the entire base. Out to the edges. Should be good. Now you can wait a few minutes and just let this thing get tacky. And just let it run around a bit. Let it tacky up. And you should be good to go. Okay, I'm just going to place this right down on the corner so we don't waste any material. And just press that down. Now I'm going to keep that held down for a few minutes and we're just going to cut around it then and we should be good to go. Okay, so let that set up for a few minutes. We are stuck on, so now it's only a case of take a knife and we just want to cut around this. There we go. There we are, happy days. A nice leather base on the bottom. That should be nice and grippy. So I'll do the other one now and then we'll test them out. Okay, so there we go. 2 hardwood push blocks with leather bases all done. And that leather is nice and grippy, which is exactly what we want. Now, if you've been sitting through this entire build wondering what the hell are these things and what am I actually making them for, well, let me show you. Okay, a couple of demonstrations as to what these are good for. So just like push sticks, they're designed to keep your hands safe. So let's say I'm at my router table, I want to put a round over on a small piece like this. Now, obviously pushing this through, you can see my fingers are getting quite close to that bit. Can be quite dangerous. If this skips or anything like that, you could actually go into that bit and you don't want to lose your digits because you need these for woodworking. So we will use these instead. And just like that, we have a nice round over on our piece and our fingers are still intact. Now the most common place you would see these push blocks used is on the planer or the jointer, depending on where you are in the world. And it's especially important when you're doing thin material because anything can happen when you're running over those blades. You want to keep your hands up and away from it. Even using thicker material, these are a good idea. So you can push stuff over the blade. Your hands are up out of the way, even if the guard is slightly retracted and you're protected. And it's especially important for things like this, when you're running short pieces against your fence over your blades, you look how close your fingers would be. If I want to keep pressure on that now to get a 90-degree edge on this, my fingers are dangerously close to that blade and we don't want that. So we can just take our push sticks. And the nice thing is with the angles, they're nice and comfortable like this. You can also use them this way. It keeps your hands further up and you can just run that over your fence and over your blades. Your hands are up out of the way so you're nice and protected. So again, the jointer or the planer is the most common place you will see these being used, but the table saw is another place. Now another place you will see these used a lot is at the table saw. They're great here at the table saw because it allows you to keep even pressure, especially across sheet materials. They are extremely handy. So with this one I can keep pressure in against the fence, and with this one I can ensure that I'm pushing the piece on through. I can slide it straight on through. My hands are up away from the blade. Even with this angle my hand is leaning away from the blade and it helps prevent kickback because I'm keeping this piece kind of held down and I can slide it on through. So let's give it a quick whirl. There we go, very simple, very safe. Right guys, there we go, a nice simple little project for today. A set of push blocks, essential to any workshop. Now why buy a set when you can spend a whole day making them? That is the question to ask yourself. Now, I could have made these out of plywood in about 10 minutes. I made them out of hardwood. I spent most of the day making them, but there you go. I'll have these forevermore, and hopefully I'll have these forevermore as well, now that I'm going to be using my push blocks to keep my hands safe. So definitely well worth getting yourself a set of these or making yourself a set of these, along with all your different types of push sticks. It's essential, especially on the table saw, that jointer and even that router. It'll have your fingers off like that. So yeah, none of us want that. So these, an essential bit of kit. So that's it guys. Hopefully you've enjoyed that one. Hopefully you've got something out of it. Comments and questions below as always. I will get back to you. A nice simple one to kick off this year with, and yeah, like I said, an essential bit of kit. So that's it guys. I'm going to get out of here now. I shall talk to you in the next one.